Imagine walking into your own business, not as the owner, but as just another customer. No special treatment, no fanfare, just you, your wheelchair, and the goal of seeing how things are running. But what happens when someone crosses a line? When a rude customer decides to target you, mistaking your quiet presence for weakness? This is the story of how one woman's entitlement led to a confrontation that no one saw coming, and how the truth prevailed. Stay tuned for a story of dignity, justice, and a community standing together. It all started like any other ordinary day. I had planned to visit my store, but this time, I wasn't coming in as the owner. I wasn't there to manage or oversee the staff. No, I was there in secret, to see the business from the perspective of an average customer. I wheeled myself through the aisles, unnoticed, just as I always had when I wanted to check on how things were really running. I was careful to keep my presence discreet. No announcements, no special treatment. It was a regular day for me. Just me and my wheelchair, trying to observe the atmosphere in the store, the chatter of my employees, the customers browsing, the organization of products. It all seemed fine. The store was calm, not too busy. But that wasn't unusual for a weekday. Everything was normal until I reached the frozen food aisle. It was there that I first saw her. She was tall, well-dressed, and walking with an air of superiority. Her heels clicked against the tile floor as she moved down the aisle with purpose. But there was something off about her. She wasn't simply shopping. She was scanning the shelves as if she owned them, her eyes narrowing with judgment. I didn't think much of it at first. People sometimes act strange when they're in a bad mood, but then she saw me. I was just sitting there, reading a supplier's note on my phone, minding my own business. She didn't give me a second glance until she was nearly on top of me. When our eyes met, I felt a strange wave of hostility from her, and without warning, she kicked my wheelchair. It wasn't a mere bump, but a full, hard kick that rattled my body and knocked my phone onto the floor. I froze for a second, the shock of it catching me off guard, but I quickly regained my composure. She looked at me, her face twisted with disdain, expecting some kind of reaction, maybe anger, maybe fear. But I didn't give her the satisfaction. I didn't shout, didn't react to her assault. Instead, I just gave her a simple, steady smile, letting her know that I wasn't going to let her get to me. She didn't back off. Instead, she escalated the situation, speaking to me as if I was just another employee, accusing me of not doing my job, and treating me with the kind of disdain that made my blood boil. But I didn't argue. I just rolled behind the counter and logged into the system, preparing myself for what was coming next. When she came back around, still puffed up with her sense of superiority, I calmly told her, "You just kicked the store owner." The look on her face changed instantly. She stammered, clearly realizing her mistake. But it was too late. Her haughty attitude turned into nervous desperation. She tried to backpedal, but I stood firm. "You're banned from this store." I told her, my voice steady and unyielding. And I have the footage to prove it. I pointed to the security cameras, which had caught everything. She didn't want to accept that. She was flustered, trying to make excuses, trying to convince me that I didn't know what I was talking about. But it was clear that she wasn't going to win this one. I had the evidence, and I wasn't afraid to use it. As she left, she stormed out of the store, muttering under her breath. I thought that was the end of it, but I was wrong. A few hours later, I began to receive notifications on my phone, tweets, messages, and posts, all from her. She had taken to social media, claiming that I, the disabled store owner, had assaulted her. She painted herself as the victim, accusing me of being rude, of pushing her around. I felt a twinge of anger as I read her lies. She was trying to rewrite the narrative, but I wasn't going to let her do that. The next day, Things escalated further. A man, dressed in a suit and carrying a briefcase, walked into the store. He introduced himself as her lawyer. He had the same cocky attitude that she had, trying to intimidate me, trying to make me back down from the situation. He was here to force me to retract my statements, to admit that I had acted inappropriately. But I wasn't scared. I calmly led him to my office and showed him the security footage. There it was, clear as day, her kicking my wheelchair, her insults, everything. There was no way she could deny it. The lawyer's demeanor shifted almost instantly. He knew he had no case. He tried to salvage something, but I wasn't interested in negotiating. I wasn't going to let someone like her try to ruin my life with lies. The lawyer left, defeated. But I knew the damage had been done. I wasn't just dealing with one difficult customer. I was now up against someone willing to use every underhanded tactic to manipulate the situation. But I didn't back down. Instead, I decided to take things further. I reached out to my lawyer, Sandy Parker, and explained the situation. We filed a formal report for defamation and harassment, knowing that this wasn't just about me. It was about standing up for every disabled person who had been mistreated, for every small business owner who had been targeted by an entitled individual. The community began to rally behind me, which gave me strength. People shared their own stories of being mistreated by entitled customers, and it became clear that this wasn't just about me and my store. It was about a broader issue, one that touched the lives of many. The support from my staff, my customers, and my community was overwhelming. As the legal battle continued, things took an unexpected turn. Karen's past began to unravel. It turned out she had a history of harassing small business owners and exploiting situations for personal gain. The more we dug into her background, the clearer it became that she had been using her position to manipulate people into giving her what she wanted. The lies she spread about me were just the tip of the iceberg. The investigation uncovered her web of deceit, and soon enough, the police were involved. It wasn't long before Karen's fraudulent claims were exposed, and she was arrested for multiple offenses, including defamation, harassment, and even attempting to extort money from local businesses. The truth had finally come to light, and it was a victory not just for me, but for everyone who had ever been treated unfairly by someone like her. In the end, the community stood together, united in defense of what was right. I had won. But more importantly, I had stood up for something bigger than myself. I had defended my dignity, my business, and the values that my store represented. The experience had changed me in ways I hadn't expected. I realized that in the face of adversity, our community is stronger when we stand together, when we support each other, and when we refuse to let anyone walk all over us. It was a long, hard road, but in the end, I knew one thing for sure. No one could ever take away my sense of self-respect or the integrity of my business. The victory wasn't just mine. It belonged to everyone who had ever been made to feel small by people like Karen.